Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I'm your host as always, Professor Prime. Let's talk about math in Final Fantasy 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to largely talk about the gameplay. I don't have a lot to say about the story, or not that it was bad or anything. It's just like I don't have a lot to say about it. But I do want to talk about it, so spoilers ahead just to be safe. Um, so I'm going to talk about the math that's focused around like the combat, and then just talk about things on a larger level. Uh, just take it from there. So let's get into it. You're free to assume spoilers ahead again. So yeah, here we go. So Final Fantasy 3. It's an interesting game. Uh, so it reminds me of one in a lot of ways. So I'm just gonna give some background before diving in proper. There's like my enjoyment of it is fascinating to me because like it's a good game. It's strong, it's layered, and but like I had mixed feelings about it because here's the thing, like right, like I've over the years, right, like I've just played Final Fantasy. However, I've played Final Fantasy, um, and so I had played five before I played three, and I've played one before three, and I'm gonna explain why that's a problem, but also interesting. So with one, you have a job system, right? You have your four warriors of light. They have their jobs. They can upgrade those jobs, and there's just some different options to explore that. But it's like it's limited in a sense, but it's like it's also very intentional. Um, they knew what they were doing, and so you have that idea of a job system, class system, whatever you want to call it. Um, so you have your characters. They have their different stats. They have different capabilities, right? Like a warrior is not going to be able to use magic, but they're going to be much stronger than like say a black mage or a white mage. And a black mage might be able to do some really crazy stuff offensively with their magic. A white mage maybe not as much, but they can heal you. They can protect you, and there's some other things they can do. But the whole point is you have these different characters with different inherent stats to them, and different capabilities and ways to grow where you can compensate for things that they may be lacking. It's a system that works, but you can't really choose to do what you want with them as much, right? In terms of what class the particular characters are. Yeah. So, but it's cool. There's still a lot of customization even given that. Now, that's one, right? And so just on that gameplay level, I see that like three and five progress that idea, and they also have some similarities. Is the base story like there's the idea of the Warriors of Light. They go some different directions with it in five that I think work, but like it's too similar in some regards while also being different. Um, for three, but it's just like I played five first and I played one before, so it's just like, oh, I'm seeing some similarities with these odd number Final Fantasy games, at least the early ones, because seven's very different, right? And then so on and so forth. But so with three, they it gets upped because you have the idea of the Onion Knights, which are like a job of their own. But you can do different jobs along the game. Like you can choose each of those knights to be various classes. It's like, hey, maybe I want this one knight to be a monk. Maybe I want this other one to be a warrior. Maybe this other one a black mage. Maybe this other one a white mage. Maybe a thief or whatever. So you have like these four, and you can choose what they want to be. And then he's like, oh, well, maybe I now want this one to be a thief, or maybe I want them to all be white mages or all black mages. You can do that. You can switch, and you can master these different jobs, and you can pick and choose how you want to do things. And so there's a lot, right? But the reason why I brought up five is because it does that same thing, except for it gives you abilities um, on a larger scale that you can choose and mix and match it. But we'll get into that when I do the video on five. So three was somewhere in between where it's actually pretty revolutionary when you think about it. But because I played five first, it's like, ooh, it's that, but less in terms of what you could actually do. But just to be clear, you can do a lot. So it's like fascinating because like one, three, and five, they all deal with similar things with the Warriors of Light, but in different ways. They are different stories. But there's that similarity, but there's also the idea of what they're doing with job systems, and how that grows. Because like two and four, they're doing different things, right? Like Two is kind of a free for all, and you're doing a lot of customization. Four is a very tight knit experience where it's like you still see the job stuff there, but it's not depicted in those same ways. And there's just so many cool things about four. But this is about three. But you see my problem, like three is a good game, but like it's surrounded by other games where I have like these things that I want to say about those, and I have one and two, and I'm going to do stuff with four and five, and I've done a bunch of other stuff with Final Fantasy games. So it's just like it's kind of caught in the middle for me because it's a good game. It does revolutionary stuff, but because of the order I played it, it's like it's hard for me to enjoy that as much as I think that I could have. But it is what it is because things played out the way they played out, right? But again, it's still a good game, and the idea is like it gets at what a lot of Final Fantasy games get at. It's like you are gaining experience and you're leveling up in some way, some shape, some form. And in this case, you know, you're doing the overall levels and you're getting your stat boots. You're trying to dish out damage while trying to avoid taking damage. Or if you're taking damage, you're trying to like negate it or you're trying to recover from it. You're using different weapons, different armor, just equipments overall, equipment overall, different items. So you're practicing like this resource management in and out of battle to build your characters and progress through the story as you are progressing in your levels. And three very much does that. And there's a lot of customization again with what you can do with the job system. So it's like it's a good game. And again, I'd argue that it was revolutionary in the way it depicted that job system. It just I played five first. But three was really solid. It was enjoyable in terms of the gameplay. The story was meh, meh. It was not the star, but it wasn't bad. You know, it was decent. Um, I didn't care for the last boss fight. Oh, the music was dope for that last boss fight, but I didn't care for it. Um, Helpful tip though, like if you have a character and you choose them to have the Viking job, and they're able to use provoke, it's gonna make that fight a lot smoother because like they can take on and minimize damage, allowing you to actually be able to properly fight because it's tough otherwise. So it's like it's not the only approach, but it's useful to know. But yeah, so that's Final Fantasy three. Like that's my thing on math for Final Fantasy three. There's much more that I could say, and some of the time is spent talking about other games, but it is to draw a comparison because if you're looking at it, like if you're playing one through five, because like you know six, seven, eight, and so on and so forth, they're all doing these like different things in different ways that kind of stand out a bit more. But I mean, these are too, but it's just like I'm trying to think of a good way. Like they're just like connection mostly because of one, three, and five. That ends up being like highlighted because of how different two and four were. Because like again, like one, you have this job system. You're able to like roll with that. And it's like, hey, this is a pretty solid experience. Two pivots hard, right? It's a lot of free fall and stuff. No job system. You can do what you want. You know, you don't have like the traditional levels, but you're leveling up pretty much everything, right? You're leveling up your weapon. You're leveling up your magic. You're leveling up. You know your different stats, and then three comes along and it's like, hey, let's go back to that job system, but let's give you the idea to customize things better. Let's let you choose the jobs in a big way. And then four comes along and it's like, we're gonna kind of do the job thing, but not like three did. And we're gonna throw some really cool, interesting things with the gameplay. We're gonna do like the ATB system and we're just going to do a lot of interesting things. We're going to have characters coming in and out, and so you're not quite used to just one thing. And then with five, it's like we're going to go back to this idea of you know customizing your jobs, and but this time we're going to add in abilities that you can master along the way, so you can change how those jobs are going to look. And I'm going to talk more about that when I get to five. But the idea is just like one, three, and five are heavily connected in like the both the story and their combat systems, even though they're all different. It's like, hey, you can see why these are connected. And two and four, again, to me, stand out and highlight that. But you can't help but draw comparisons. So that's where I'm at. It's like where three is a really good game, but it's hard not to compare it to the others. But I dig it enough to like go through it and be like, hey, yeah, it's a good game with great music. So yeah, that was my math and Final Fantasy 3 video.